Howdy, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Anonymous Investors Podcast. As always, I am your co-host, Mega Pint, as in Mega Pint of red wine. For those of you who know, you know. And as always, I'm visited by my lovely co-host, God. He transitioned from Robert back to God. What is that about, man? What the fuck is going on? Tell the people. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Are you God? Howdy, howdy, howdy.
I'm doing good. If you ever want a reason to doing this podcast, see the creativity between this guy's name change every week. Mega Pint. What the hell is that?
You don't know about this at all?
No.
Oh, okay. So Mega Pint. So I'm a very interesting character. Some would say esoteric in some way. So Mega Pint is referring to Amber Heard's legal team assigning characteristics to Johnny Depp drinking wine. So when Johnny Depp was on the stand during that whole case that's been going on, the defamation case, the the lawyer was questioning Johnny Depp when he's on the stand, and he's like, "Oh, and you had a mega pint of wine," and Johnny Depp's like, "A mega pint? Like, what the fuck is that?" That was basically what he said. So it was just funny because they were just trying to like lead, you know how they go with questioning. They try to lead you into admitting something that you obviously didn't do. So the guy's like, "Oh yes," and you proceeded to have a mega pint of red wine, and Johnny Depp's like, "A mega pint," and the whole courtroom just started laughing. It was just like one of the highlights of the case. So I am your host, Mega Pint, this week. My name always changes, and by the way, I don't think you'll ever be able to guess what my name change will be in weeks to follow. And I like to keep it that way. I like to keep it fresh, keep it interesting, and I always like to make it something related to current topics. So
Yeah, I haven't seen much of that trial. What do you think about the trial? Have you been like following? Because I know it's like publicized, right? They have public trials going on, and it's on the news and shit.
yeah, absolutely. So they have cameras in the courtroom. There was this initial trial that happened years ago between them. Obviously, they dated and then married for some time in the past for quite a few years. So it's just very interesting because the whole situation is really complex, right? So Johnny Depp, um, for those of you who don't know, obviously, I mean, really, you kind of live under a rock if you don't know. But he was the main actor in Pirates of the Caribbean. He was a tremendous actor. Jack Sparrow is like easily one of the best Disney characters of all fucking time. Like easily one of the best in terms of like an actual live action type of movie. Now, what's interesting is that Johnny Depp married Amber Heard. They met on the set of some other movie. They married, and then she kind of came out years later with these accusations against him, saying that he was physically abusive towards her. And obviously, those are accusations not to be taken lightly. So at the time, Disney caught him, and they said, "Fuck it, we're done with the franchise," and they just wrapped it up and put a bow on it. Um, and his whole world kind of fell apart. Like he went from being one of the highest grossing actors of all time. He was reportedly making anywhere from like $20 to $40 million per film that he was in, which is fucking ridiculous because even if he had like such a minor role in it, he still was making like 20 million. There was one movie he was in, I forget which one it was. I think it was like Alice in Wonderland or something. He had like a super minor role, like maybe in like a 2.5 hour film, he had like 15 to 20 minutes of screen time, and he made 20 million for that movie, which is crazy because that's nothing in the grand scheme of the overall cinema. So the whole case, and now really tying this in, so she came out and said that he was physically abusive towards her, but now it's kind of come out and he's been suing her and taking her to court because he feels that he has grounds for defamation. So she published this op-ed, and in this op-ed, she alleged that he committed all these various different crimes, and now they're going through the court proceedings, and basically the court of public opinion is on his side. Like just based off that alone. And typically, this is a situation where like a woman comes out and accuses a man of doing like very heinous crimes. Usually, the court of public opinion is on the side of the woman in most cases. But in this case, like the evidence is so, in my opinion, the evidence is so damning that she's completely wrong. So I'll just give you some examples. They have her on audio tape saying, openly admitting to hitting him. They have audio tape of her going out of her way to not only hit him, but like Johnny Depp's sister would book rooms and like book hotel trips with a separate room because she knew that Johnny was going to get into a fight with Amber and then run away. So like all these people who know him and people who've had interactions with him throughout the years, they all testified under oath, and they all testified how he's like a good guy, and he had like a rough childhood with his parents where his first thing that he would do whenever there was a conflict is like try to diffuse the situation. And if he wasn't able to diffuse the situation, he would like run away from the conflict. So he would like go to another room and like kind of hang out until the other person cooled down. So there's like literally video footage, there's audio footage of like Amber Heard being physically abusive towards Johnny Depp. Not only that, but she had like they submitted pictures in this op-ed where she has like bruises on her face, and supposedly she says that she put on makeup to cover up the bruises. Well, she testified under oath, and in her deposition she says that the makeup she used was like one specific brand, but that brand of makeup didn't come out until like 3 years later. So like they've literally caught her in these like this whole web of lies. And then also it came out that they got into an argument, a verbal disagreement, and he kind of went over to her, sat her down on the bed, and he's like, "Do not follow me. I'm leaving. I'm going to the other house." So he removed himself from the situation, which everyone who testified, so far has says that that's a very common thing that he does because he's not a violent guy and he doesn't really have any violent inclinations. Even so much so that his ex wife testified and said like he's never done anything bad to me. Like he's been a great guy. Like we just we weren't in love anymore, which is why we got divorced.
In order to like prove defamation for like a celebrity, right? You got to have something that's false, which that's questionable whether you could prove that that's false because you could point to how he did drugs and all these kinds of different drugs he drank and stuff like that. So was he truly aware of whether or not he slapped her? And I think that's why her defense is basically pushing like this narrative of mega pint and drugs, etc., and such like that, so that basically they can try and like say that he hit her when he was drunk or he did drugs and that he doesn't know. So they're trying to like dispute the
Yeah.
facts of the case in that regard. And then you have to basically publish it somewhere, which she probably did. She published it online, and then you
Yeah,
have to
she
show
published it in the op-ed. Yeah.
yeah, you have to show negligence too, which is kind of hard to prove in this case. Like, did she negligently do it, or did she think it was true, whatever like that? Which comes back to the first part, is it true? So I think even though the court of public opinion is on her side, and they're coming around,
It,
they come
they're
around to
they're
think
on they're on his side. Usually they're on the
oh
side of
yeah,
the woman, but
they're
the
on
court of public
his side.
opinion is very much on his side right now.
Right, that's what I meant to say. They're on his side, exactly. Even though the court of public opinion is on his side, I think he's gonna have a hard time proving that she's proving defamation and getting any kind of like monetary settlement for this. It's kind of hard to prove like how many movie roles would he have gotten, how much would have got paid. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten. Maybe he would have got paid less than his previous movies. Maybe he wouldn't have got cast for anything. Maybe he would have got cast for a lot of movies. It's kind of hard to prove in that sense. And so you don't know damages, you don't know any of this. And I think he was like requesting like a lot of, what was he requesting, 25 million, you said?
50 million. Yeah, he's suing her for
50
50.
million. Yeah. Like, does she even have 50 million to pay? Why is he even doing that? I think this case is just for show. He wants to like get his reputation back. I don't even think he wants any money at all. I think he's just trying to get his reputation back so he can get back into the movie business. And he's
I
doing the
think he
trial so
doesn't.
that it's public in that regard.
Yeah, I think that he doesn't really care, and he said in his opening testimony that basically the whole point was that uh, he wanted to clear the air about like any sort of thing that people previously thought about him, and to kind of show that he said he had a really hard problem with like some of the things that his kids went through particularly, and that kind of motivated him to like take the whole thing to court. But as far as what I was saying before, this was a good point I wanted to make, is that it's been conclusively proven that they got into this verbal dispute. He removed himself from the situation, went to one of his other houses, and then Amber was still staying in the house in which they had the verbal dispute. He has other people who live in the house with him, so they're in other rooms, so they know what's going on. They're there the whole time. So they go into the bedroom, and then on his side of the bed, there's human fecal matter on the bed, which is hilarious because Amber Heard's like the defense, they didn't even try to dispute that. She got so pissed off that she like shit in the bed and on like his side of the bed. Like she literally got so mad at someone that she took a shit in the bed, which is kind of like hilarious. But as far as the Megapine thing and everything else, like it's hilarious because the defense, like, obviously Johnny Depp was on the stand and the defense was trying to say like, oh, you drink and you do drugs. And he's like, yeah, like I openly admit that. Like he doesn't hide the fact,
Yeah, well, you
that
know
he
why they're
does
pushing that
things
narrative,
that.
right?
Mhm.
They're pushing that narrative because if you're drunk, you drink too much, you might pass out drunk and you might forget things. So they're saying, oh, you might not remember that you hit her, but she's claiming that you did. So you're not in the right state of mind to say you didn't hit her, and she's saying you did. So basically, we have proof on our side that you did do it. That's like their argument.
Yeah, I have to send you clips off stream about like this whole case because literally like it's to the point where I don't know if you saw this clip, it went super viral, but one of the defense attorneys put someone else on the stand that was on their side and the guy objected to his own question. Like he literally objected to his own question. I have to show you this off stream. Like the legal team that Amber Heard hired. I'm not, and I'd say this, you're gonna find this hilarious. She literally has like 5 lawyers. Like that's how bad these lawyers are. You have to see it. It's hilarious. But like the guy is just reading off headlines about things that Johnny Depp did, and he's just reacting to it. And the guy's like, "Did I read that correctly?" And Johnny Depp's like, "Yes." And the guy will keep reiterating, "Did I read that correctly? Did I read that correctly?" And then Johnny Depp's like, "Oh wow, you read that very well. You read that very well." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, you read that very well. Maybe you should read the article or whatever. It's actually a good article." And it's just funny because like they're just throwing out these like headlines that are like blatant fucking hit pieces on Johnny Depp, and he's just reacting to it in a way that's like there's something about him like where he's able to kind of you got to really watch some clips of this because he really handles it like for someone who has never been to court, like you would be impressed with like his presence on the stand. They also had a forensic psychologist come out and testify, and she basically testified that um her test, like according to her test that she performed, Amber Heard came back as someone with like psychopathic tendencies and like tendencies of an abuser.
Well, she was like I saw her like smiling a lot when she was being questioned and stuff like that, which was it looked like a crazy person. But another thing that I wanted to bring up, because you got to bring up some counterpoints to basically support her to balance out, I don't know, balance out the conversation. But Johnny Depp, like one of Johnny Depp's witnesses, his friend that was on the stand, he basically this guy didn't work. He like made no money, and basically Johnny Depp paid him just to sit at home and like be an artist because the guy wanted to be an artist so bad and he wanted to paint and etc. And Johnny Depp told his friend like, oh, if you want to be an artist and you want to paint, I'll give you this amount of money per month. Pursue your passion. I just want you to be happy. And he would just hand him the money each and every month. So like that's a motivation to like lie for someone to understand if he did do it, etc. Because like of how good of a friend he was. That's just like a counterpoint. I don't know if they're gonna bring that up in the trial or not, but
Yeah, they
that
they
shows
tried.
credibility.
Yeah, they tried bringing that up. That was the bald gentleman with the goatee. Yeah, that guy, like, that's such a weird situation. Like, obviously, if someone like that testifying on someone else's behalf, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt because of what you just said. But at the same time, it just goes to show, like Johnny Depp, the whole thing was that the guy was saying he met this guy through like a mutual friend that they both had, and he was like, oh, whatever. The mutual friend was like, oh, I'll show your paintings to Johnny Depp. And then Johnny Depp was like, oh, wow, I really like the painting. And the guy was like, hey, do you want to buy it at some point? And Johnny Depp was like, maybe. But he's like, I'll do you one better. And he's like, oh, I'll be like a patron of like your art. So he basically set up these like art shows where Johnny Depp would have people over his house, like very, wealthy and powerful people over at his house. And he would have all this guy's artwork there that, obviously he became friends with. And he was just a patron for him. So he said, oh, rather than buy like one painting from you, I'll literally build you like a career as like an artist. And that's kind of what he did. And then he also had like, Johnny Depp's like stupidly rich. So he owns like islands and penthouses and, different mansions. So he actually gave him, I think it was like penthouse 3 or something like that referred to in court, where he just gave the guy the penthouse and he's like, yeah, you could just use it as an art studio or whatever. Like, don't even worry about it. So the guy obviously went to live there for free. But yeah, that's someone like testifying on someone else's behalf. And that's like you said, it has to be taken with a grain of salt because Johnny Depp literally changed his fucking life. But as far as the motivations, like obviously what this is years ago, like well before the trial was even a thought in anyone's head. It's just like he's a good, to me it seems like that's something that like a good person would do. Like he saw this guy and he's like, hey, I have a shitload of money, like whatever, I don't need all this money. And here's this guy like scraping by and I think he's a good guy. Like, let me help him out. As far as like like he has no reason to just help like a random person other than like he just wants to, like he didn't really get anything out of that guy. Now, I mean, you could argue, yeah, like the guy's on the stand testifying, in favor of him, like that's good. But at the same time, like you can't think that he's thinking that far ahead of like, oh, when I'm in court one day, like I'm gonna need someone on my side. Like that's crazy to even think that far ahead.
Yeah, that's a fair point. There's no way he could have predicted that.
Yeah, he didn't really get anything out of the guy. Like at the time, he's literally just helping a random person. Like that to me, that just speaks volumes about like his character. And I don't know. I think that he was like unfairly maligned because he partook in like doing drugs and stuff like that. And I don't know. He had a really rough childhood, so I can empathize with that. But drugs aren't the solution to handling that. I think that channeling your emotions and channeling your behavior into more productive works, particularly in his case, like artistic endeavors, is a good move. Like Jim Carrey was obviously everyone knows him as an actor, of course, and comedian, but like he was going through a period of like severe depression. So like what he did was he started creating artwork, and like that's how he got through that period of depression that he was going through in his life. Like, but he like literally took all of his like negative emotions and lack of energy and then just channeled it into something that was like super productive. And then obviously he ended up being able to sell those paintings and making like quite a bit of money. But I'm sure that it helped him too, but it was also therapeutic. So
Oh, another thing too that I saw in the news about Amber Heard, and this goes to like her reputation, our character or whatever, how good of a person is. Remember when they had a divorce settlement? She said that she was going to donate like half of her divorce settlement, which was 7 million, to the ACLU. Well, like there was an
yeah, she
article
only
coming
donated
out.
100,000, right? Out of her own pocket.
She only donated 1.3 million, and they think that 500,000 of the 1.3 million actually came from Elon Musk. So she only really donated 800,000 of the 3.5 million that she was supposed to donate. So that goes to like your character, and like you don't say what you're gonna do, and you're putting up this kind of facade, and you're not who you say you are, and that kind of shows a little bit of psychopathic tendencies that you just blatantly lie about what you're gonna do in regards to the donation.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I saw that. It was like an accountant or someone else, like some type of financial advisor testified. And the guy, I actually saw this a little bit more in depth. So yeah, it was like 1.1 million or roughly like over a million. One of which was from like some type of Fidelity account. It was like 500,000. Then there was some money from a Vanguard account of like 300,000. But then they said like as a check from Amber Heard herself, it was like $150,000 like directly made out from her. So that's crazy. Like she literally only donated $150,000 and she claimed publicly that she donated 7 million or whatever the case may be. Like that's just despicable. But on that same line of thinking of people donating money and some things that might come with that. So President Joe Biden is considering forgiving $10,000 in student loans. And I'm told that he will have a decision before the end of the moratorium period, which is at the end of August of 2022. Now, this is a very nuanced conversation, but personally, if you ask me, I think it's a temporary solution to a permanent problem. So, for those of you who don't know, there was this act that was enacted in 2005, and it's called the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act. And it was enacted to include private student loans as one of the 10 debts that cannot be forgiven. So, in 2005, student loans ceased being dischargeable, meaning that you cannot declare bankruptcy on them. So this essentially means, in a nutshell, when you really think about it, that lenders assume no risk in giving out these student loans. So if you actually look at college tuition since then, they've ballooned because institutions realize that they can just charge whatever the fuck they want for college because the government is pretty much the guarantor of these loans. So it's just been this whole fucking debacle where a lot of people, particularly in the younger generation, are underwater because of these student loans. And my solution in particular to the student loan crisis is to make student loans dischargeable again, which will result in stricter lending criteria and drive down the cost of higher education. So really, the federal government has to get out of like the higher education loan business like entirely. Um, So lenders will be less likely to provide loans to individuals who pursue bullshit degrees like left-handed puppetry, as Dave Ramsey likes to talk about quite a bit, and lesbian dance theory, as Ben Shapiro likes to talk about. So to appease the student loan companies, I feel like they should be offered maybe tax credits for accepting student loan forgiveness and allowing young people to declare bankruptcy, but not traditional bankruptcy as you're thinking. I would think that maybe you kind of, in a roundabout way to protect the financial system, the student loan bankruptcy should be held under a different classification than traditional bankruptcy. So that way, the younger generation doesn't go through a period of 7 years of shitty credit scores and not being able to get, not being able to get an apartment, to lease a car, to buy a car, finance a car, or whatever. So I feel like it should be a different type of bankruptcy, like some type of special classification. But my main thought in that process is maybe the younger generation, they should have to disclose their student loan bankruptcy to prospective lenders and creditors, because that's only right, right? So, if you're $100,000 in student loan debt and then you discharge the debt, like if you're going to go to BMW and go to buy like a 3 Series and finance it, like BMW should have a right to know that, hey, you fucking had $100,000 in student loans and then you just said, fuck it, and didn't pay it off, and then you discharged it. So I guess my main point in bringing all this up is that it's such a nuanced conversation. It's such a big thing that no one's really spoke about for quite some time. And now it looks like we might finally come to head here, and there might actually be $10,000 of student loan forgiveness for people who are affected by it. So God, my man, I'm just wondering, how do you feel about the student loan things? And then additionally, like, what did you think about my proposal about making them dischargeable and allowing students to be able to kind of get rid of this non-dischargeable debt?
Yeah, I don't really like the idea of having dischargeable debt. I think if you take out a loan or you commit to something, I think you should pay it back. I'm not really a fan of like bankruptcy in that regard. In general, like how people restructure and they have these companies and they just open up a new company and they declare bankruptcy, etc. That serves some kind of moral high ground kind of a problem, and I don't think basically discharging the debt solves the problem either. I think you really have to, go to the go at the educational level and teach these people financial literacy and how to choose schools and how to basically pick the best value for their dollar, and not go to a $60,000 school times whatever 4 years, $240,000, and go $240,000 in debt for a career that might pay 40, 50,000. Like that's not a wise financial decision on your investment. Like I see, if you want to be a doctor, you could pay $40,000 a year times four, and whatever. Maybe you could pay 400,000 or 500,000 for that education if you become a doctor, because the income potential, you get 6, 7, 800,000 in return. But you have to look at the income potential for your job, how much you're paying to get that job and get the qualities needed for that job, and whether or not it's worth it. You can't be going and paying an exorbitant amount of money and then getting a job as a social worker, et cetera, that pays, $30,000, $40,000 a year. It's just not worth it financially. And your monthly payments on a loan, basically it'll be impossible to ever pay back. And I think the government is being complicit in this. And, I think just like, I don't think they should even like give out the loans. They should say, "Oh, you don't qualify for this loan because you're going for this job, and you don't make enough money." Like they should basically have stricter requirements on, if you want this loan, you have to go for this, 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 and this is the median salary, etc. And you qualify to take out this much of a loan each and every year. And there should be more requirements on working in that regard. If you want to take out a loan from the federal government, you should be forced to basically work while you're in college. I think everybody can work while they're in college. People say like, "Oh, I'm going to school full time, I can't work." That's bullshit. You could work while you're in school and get some money to pay off your education, and dwindle down the bill. And I think state school and city college is a good opportunity for each individual, and they should look long and hard on why should they have to go to a private school. It's not really that much of a better education. You're getting the same kind of education in every school you go. Let me tell you one thing: they all use the same books. They all use Pearson. They all use whatever. They all use these same textbooks. It's not much of a different education, and the teachers aren't that much smarter at a different school than they're not that much smarter at, say, an Ivy League school than they are at another private school or at one of these state and city colleges. It's pretty much the same education you're getting everywhere, since we have the internet and everything's online, and we have this kind of standardized education through these book publishers.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points there. Particularly there was this study that was done, and it's fucking crazy. So Harvard, I believe it was Harvard Medical School. They basically published this information. I don't know why they did, and you're going to be baffled when I tell you this, but it totally makes sense, especially with the internet and the new innovations coming up and different things that pop up. So Harvard Medical School came out and said that the half-life of the teaching material that they cover is 2 years. Think about that. For the medical school, the half-life of the material they're teaching is 2 years. So medical school, at like the bare minimum, you're there for like 5 years. So by the time you graduate, the material that you were just taught 3 years ago, assuming you're there for 5 years, is completely outdated and no longer relevant to the field that you're working in.
Well, that's not for all the material. I'm assuming there's some standardized material that doesn't change.
Right, of
But
course.
yeah,
Like the
there
human
are
body's
updated
not going to
studies
change. Yeah,
and clinical studies, etc. But that's why you take educational credits every year. You have to take a certain number of educational credits to basically maintain your status. It's like any job, accountant, or any kind of professional certification. You have to take a certain number of educational credits in a certain time frame.
absolutely. And I like what you said though about the government kind of just got like vetting people and saying, hey, you know what? You're studying left-handed puppetry. Like that's not really a field that's expected to grow in the next 5 or 10 years. Like you don't really qualify for a loan, and turning people away. That's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. Because to give someone a loan for some bullshit fucking degree that has no potential job prospects post graduation is pretty ridiculous. Like it's just it honestly, I think there's a lot of people who they go to college and they're just there to party and they don't know what the fuck they want to do with their lives. And I don't think I'm actually in favor of potentially pushing like college further down the road. I we mentioned this in the past offline, but Israel in particular requires everyone to do mandatory military service before attending college, and their college is more of I guess a co-op. So you work for someone and then you also study the field. So you have like that typical American like classroom experience, but then you also do like an internship at the same time. So like if you're going to become a financial advisor or an accountant, like you work alongside those people in that field. And then instead of having like 15 credits or like 12 credit semesters, like half of it would be in like a classroom setting and then half of it would be more kinesthetic, like hands-on learning. And that's good because that's how you're going to learn what to do. I think the whole American education system is inherently flawed because you're just pushing people into a funnel and you're like, okay, let me just read to you out of this fucking textbook, like why you need to know this or like why this is important or like how to explain this. And it's just dumb because how many people do you know that like graduate college or go into different fields and then they're like, well, I don't really want to work in that field. And it's just like, well, you're being forced to make this stupid decision at the age of 18 because that's just how society is set up. And if you don't make that decision by the time you're 18, society just like inherently views you as like some type of loser, even though I would say that you're probably more rational and more mature than a lot of people going away to college at the age of 18. I have a lot of friends that graduated from college and they have degrees in specific fields, and now they're not even going to work in those fields, and they're going to work these shitty fucking retail jobs and whatever other shitty jobs. And it's just like there's no reason to do that. Like you literally went to college to get a degree, you took on student loans, like you clearly expressed an interest in working in that particular field. So for you not to pursue that field or pursue any type of work within that field, even somewhat related, is like pretty disingenuous and pretty much self-defeating.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And speaking of education, right? Joe Biden, I think Nancy Pelosi was saying Joe Biden should um, not only cancel $10,000 of loan. These Democrats are saying they should wipe out student loans in its entirety. And there's been a bunch of pushback for not only 10,000 but the whole thing, which is crazy. Because we were just talking about like only wiping out 10,000, and this pushback even on like how little that is. I think that's even a lot. Just even wipe by 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000's a lot, and it's going to be interesting to see like what falls within the criteria of that 10,000, because a lot of people were assuming that the 10,000 figure itself would apply towards public institutions, not necessarily private institutions. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens in that respect. But even $10,000, that's a lot of money. Like that's completely fair, especially considering for the last 2 years there hasn't been any student loan interest collected. Right? I mean, the whole moratorium period kicked off with the illness that was going around, and has, like we said, now it's going to continue until the end of August of 2022. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that respect. But yeah, the whole student loan crisis is way out of hand. It obviously is something that needs to be tackled. It's ballooned to trillions of dollars at this stage of the game. And I can't help but think like the government is once again meddling in a situation that it shouldn't be involved in. If the government really wasn't involved in it, prices for college and for higher education wouldn't be anywhere near as exorbitant as they are now.
You know what? Why even go to college in this day and age when there's a platform called OnlyFans where you could just like make tons of money and have no education, pay no tuition, etc. Like I heard you had like some sort of list or maybe a person that was making like a crazy amount of money on this platform, and they're like not even that old. They're like college aged.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because I was just reading like some of these girls, and they make like a crazy amount of money. So like, we saw Bella Thorne open an OnlyFans account and she made millions of dollars in like a week or something like that. And at that point she set the record, but then Bad Baby, everyone remembers Bad Baby. Catch Me Outside, how about that? Bad Baby. Honestly, after I tell you this, you're gonna think like, what the fuck? So Bad Baby has an OnlyFans apparently, and she posted online that she made $52 million. She grossed $52 million this year alone from OnlyFans, and she like opened the account. Like, I'm sorry, this was in 2021. I don't know why I'm saying this year, but whatever. This
Well, that's
fucking
pretty much a
past
year.
year.
That's
Yeah,
even
right,
if it was in January. We're only in April right now. That's pretty much
right.
only a year.
Yeah. So in 2021, she opened this account and she grossed $52 million, which is fucking bananas because she's like 19 or 20 or something like that. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, that is crazy. So she made all this money, and she literally even said from the get-go that she wasn't going to do anything explicit. And for whatever reason, people kept like buying shit that she was posting, and that it's just going to be kind of like PG-13, I guess. I don't know what you'd classify it as. It's just
Well,
funny
it's all
because
like creeps buying it because she's like kind of like came into fame when she was a child. So like it's all these people that have these like perverted kind of thoughts that it's probably like old men. That's why she made so much money because she came up to fame when she was a child. So that adds like this kind of underground element to it.
that honestly, that's probably the case. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's honestly the whole OnlyFans economy. Like a lot of it is just kind of like older guys with like on social security, or like they're getting extra checks and like they have some extra money to throw around. It's like rather than buy a Ferrari, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna give like $100,000 to Bad Baby. It's just like,
Well,
okay,
I
dude,
mean, think
it's
about this,
crazy.
right? Think about this. You work your whole life. Maybe you have, I don't know, $5-6 million you saved up for your whole life. You invested it. You got your money up to $5-6 million. You're 74 years old, right? You have no children. You have no relatives, no nothing. Your wife recently passed away. Like you're lonely. You're by yourself. If you die, your money is basically going to go to the government because you have nobody that has a claim to it. Like, what are you going to do with the money? Like, you need some enjoyment somehow. Say you're sickly and you can't go on vacation. What else are you going to spend the money on? What kind of entertainment? So that's what it really is.
I
It's like this
I could
kind of.
tell you, I could tell you what type of entertainment I'd spend it on.
Let's hear it.
Are you sure you want to hear it?
I guess.
I would go fucking bonkers. So, like we were talking about Johnny Depp and his reported drug use, I would go crazy. I would have fucking women living at my house. Like if I knew I was very sickly, Oh my god, I'd be like Drake. I'd have a bus of strippers coming to my house. It'd be like the Magic School Bus. It'd be like the Magic School Bus. It'd be like driving around picking them all up, putting them in the fucking bus, getting in, bitch. They're fucking dropped off at my house, and I'm partying like I'm fucking Charlie Sheen. That's what I'm doing. Especially if I have no family and no one else is gonna get that money, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm very sickly. Like I might only live for like another couple of years. I'm fucking going out with a bang. That's it. That's what you do. Forget OnlyFans. Have OnlyFans in your fucking house, son. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, be like Hugh Hefner.
Yeah, you could be like 85-year-old Dan Bilzerian, 85-year-old cancer guy, Dan Bilzerian, like whatever market. It's hilarious.
What is Dan Bilzerian even doing anymore?
I
I
don't know.
actually that brings up a good topic that I think we should discuss. I don't know how much you know about this topic, or maybe but I guess we could talk about it and see where it goes. Did you see the recent scandal that happened in poker regarding RTA use in online poker?
No, I'm not familiar with that. What happened there?
Okay, so like RTA, it's like it stands for real time assistance or whatever. It's just basically so like when you play poker, there's like a GTO, or basically the game theory optimal way of playing. Like it's like mathematically proven you should when you have list out all the hands, and you should do this with that hand, and you should raise, you should fold, you should call with this hand, this percentage of time, this percentage of time, this percentage of time, right? They have like these kind of like game charts. So like those are against the rules to use when you're playing like online poker. You're not supposed to pull out a game chart and look at the chart while you're playing. It's supposed to be like fair, and you're not supposed to have any kind of charts and such in that regard. And they also have like these solvers where you put in your hand and you put in what the opponent does, and it tells you exactly what to do. You should raise this amount of pot, this amount, etc. So it's basically telling you how to play like optimally in that scenario, and it's like against the rules. So like recently there was this whole bunch of high stakes poker players who basically were using these RTA softwares, etc., and they were banned on the GG Poker platform for using RTA assistance. And it calls into question like the integrity of online poker. And a lot of people actually play online poker during COVID, and a lot of people are starting to question these platforms, and the sponsorships that they have. Like, do they do, like, say if you are a sponsor of like a certain platform like Party Poker, GG Poker, etc., and you're a sponsor of them, are they likely to give you better hands? Is it completely random? Do these people that are sponsors, do they have like can they see the other people's whole cards, etc.? So like it's going into question a lot of different things. This discovery of like cheating on the platform.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there were some poker platforms. I think there was one in particular where they kind of got caught. Like people who had like an in with the platform on the website, they were able to see everyone else's hand at the table, but no one else could see their hand. I don't
Yeah, I
remember
think that
what
was up stakes
platform
or
that
up bet
was.
or something like that. Ultimate bet.
I think it was Ultimate Bet. I think you're right. I think that sounds very familiar to me. Yeah, I love poker. Poker's a great game, man. It's a really good game, very cerebral. Like you said, there's a lot of game theory that goes into it as well. Knowing what hands to fold, knowing what hands to play, knowing how much to bet, and when to bet appropriately. But that's going to be something that's really interesting to see, particularly playing online. I do like the game, and it is tough to get a live game going, but it really does make it worthwhile. And one of the main reasons I really don't like playing online is that you see a lot of these kind of crazy bluffs happen, and in real life they just don't happen. Like it's just more often than not, you really don't see them very seldomly. And then as
Well,
far as websites having like any type of access to showing certain players other players' hands and giving them advantages. Like I think that 100% will happen. Now the solution to that is a poker company or a poker website to come forward and to pretty much make their website transparent to the point where you release the source code for the website itself so that anyone can verify that there is no
I mean,
cheating going on, and that's really the
uh,
way to do it.
I understand what you're saying, and that makes perfect sense logically. But wait, if you release the source code to a poker website, which has a lot of financial data, that's a huge security risk of people getting their of like a hack risk or whatever, of people getting their accounts stolen in that regard. But like I don't know if I would ever really play like that much online poker. I don't think it's trustworthy. There's a lot of shady stuff going on. Like there's people like ghosting each other. So like when you ghost someone, basically you say you're playing online poker, and there's some, and you're in a tournament, right? And you made it to say like the final table. Like you basically call up your friend, say your friends like Bryn Kenny or Daniel Negreanu or Phil Ivey or whatever, or Phil Hellmuth, right? They're more experienced. They're better at poker than you are, and they basically sit there and they coach you on what to do. And that could go on since you're online and nobody can see you and what's going on. You could have like people say you join a tournament and or a cash game online, and you're in the same table as somebody else as your friend. I could purposely raise, and then you re-raise me, and then I fold. So basically I'm like handing over chips to you in a tournament so that you have a higher stack, and thus a higher probability of winning in like the long run. I'm basically just shifting, like my transferring my chips over to you to make it easier for you. And yeah, there was this guy like Bryn Kenny. He's like one of the richest poker players in like cash games. I think he made like over $50 million. He's number one in total cash games, and he just recently got accused of cheating as well because he was running this like they call it like a stable of horses, where he like basically hires a whole bunch of people. He had like over like 50 people allegedly on his payroll, and he was basically like coaching them in tournaments, etc. And like he had like it was like impossible for him to lose the way he set things up like in the tournaments.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. There was a situation. I'm so glad you brought up poker. I haven't spoken about poker in such a long time, but particularly whenever I'd play PS4 back in the day, there was this game on there. Maybe some of you are familiar with this game. It's called Prominence Poker. It was a really fun game. You have like your own little avatar and stuff like that. You could buy the poker chips with real money, or you could just play through the game and complete various challenges in the tournament mode. And then that's how, and enter these very high stake tournaments and win these chips. And more specifically, what happens is that in the process of winning these games, like you amass like a crazy chip stack and you keep playing, right? And you reinvest your chips, and then you could spend the chips on like microtransactions and whatever, right? So it doesn't it doesn't go to waste. But one of the main things though with that game, which I thought was really cool, but which is kind of like to your point, we would join, me and my friends, like we would go on there and we would join party chat and we'd hop into a lobby and we'd keep like backing out of games until we got put in the same room because we'd connect to like, we all lived within the same area, of the United States. So we all would like keep bouncing and we'd like join session, like leave, whatever. And we'd keep doing that until like four of us got at a table, like a 6-person table. And then we would tell each other what hands we had like beforehand, and we would just fuck like the other two people over. And that's like basically exactly what you're describing. Like we literally did this in the game like nonstop, and it easily violated the rules of the game. And like we could have been banned or whatever. But it was just like we literally would do it to troll and to like fuck with people. So I'd be like, yo, I have like pocket aces, get the fuck out. Like, I'd be like, yo, I have, big slick, like fold this fucking hand or whatever. Or I'd be like, oh, I'm going to check here and I'm going to trap this guy. So like, I'll let you get another hand in here or whatever. But like, we would literally tell each other when we had like crazy fucking hands. And I'd be like, yo, I'm pushing all in, fold, fold, fold. And like, we'd isolate people and shit. And we would just fucking clap people because you literally have like, every hand pretty much with the exception of two. And the odds of like four people having, one hand that beats two people is like basically almost 100%, like however you look at it. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's a huge problem as well. There's people that I don't know if this wasn't exactly what you're mentioning, but there's people that say go into like cash games, like on a computer, they go from table to table, and they'll wait for the other person to post the big blind. They'll post the big blind, and then they'll like re-raise, and they'll steal the big blind. Then they'll leave the table. So they're basically like going around just stealing like big blinds, and then they never have to post the big blind. And then adding on to the Bryn Kenny story, there was actually another part of where there was this businesswoman. I think her name was like Lauren Roberts. She's like a very rich woman, and he like basically convinced. He was like, I think he was having an affair with her. He refuses to admit it, but it was kind of weird, the relationship, like how he was in her house, etc., like living there. It didn't make sense. Like the guy's like worth a lot of money. Why is he living in her house? But in that regard, but he basically like installed this kind of malware on her computer, So like every time she played online poker, he could see like her cards because he had this malware on the computer. And then every time she logged in and played, he would call up his stable, and he would tell him like, log on, the fish is on, the fish is on, log on, we got to get her, we got to get her. And like this woman's worth like a lot of money, and he stole like a lot of money from her. And now like this whole big controversy and everything like that. She's pissed off and she's going nuts online.
That is crazy. And speaking of live events and anything pertaining to live events, I don't know if you saw this, but Twitch.tv, the popular video streaming platform, has announced updates to its partnership program. And to be completely honest with you, the results are not good. Twitch currently pays members of its partnership program 70% of the subscription fee to their channel, taking a 30% cut for themselves. However, the platform is considering ending this in favor of a 50-50 even split. Now, if you ask me, this puts Twitch at risk of losing a lot of people that are going to potentially migrate to YouTube. And there's also going to be more of a push for advertising on their platform, which Twitch is openly admitted to wanting to do. But there's a problem with the advertising. And to me, the problem with Twitch advertising is that it is cannibalistic to the content itself. Ads on Twitch are so fucking repetitive, and they blatantly interrupt a broadcast. Don't believe me? Go on Twitch, watch any stream from like any of the top 10 streamers, watch it for like 10 minutes. You'll see like a minute or 2 minute long ad that plays while the streamer that you're trying to watch is doing something in the game, or if it's an IRL stream, they're walking around, they're exploring the city. Like, it's so fucking annoying. Like, you can't see what the streamer's doing because these stupid ads keep coming up. And it's getting
Well,
to
how
the
does
point
it?
where some creators have to play ads one out of every 10 minutes of a broadcast. Like, it's getting really bad, even to the point where the ad um, frequency is worse than conventional television and conventional broadcasting.
Well, I mean, how does that exactly work? If the ad come on for different times for different people? Because like I might come in at a different part of the live show, so like basically I'm not seeing the whole show because this ad's randomly popping up,
Yeah,
and
so
different
the
people will see
ads are
different things.
Yeah, so the ads are served to you based upon like your watch time within the stream. So if I'm streaming and you join my stream right away, you're gonna see a fucking ad. Like, you're literally gonna see a 2 minute ad as soon as you join, and then every 10 minutes you'll see at least 1 minute of ads, unless the creator has a special clause in their contract that is designed to limit the amount of ads. So I'll give you a great example, like XQC. If you watch him, he's
And
literally the biggest guy on Twitch. If you watch his stream for like 20 minutes, you'll see like 3 fucking ads, which is fucking ridiculous. Like 3 minute long unskippable ads, to the point where you either have to pay for Twitch Prime, or there's another version of Twitch where it's like you basically see no ads, but it's like $15 a month and no one wants to pay for it. So you either have to be subscribed to the person in the form of a Twitch sub, which is honestly not cheap. It's like literally, I mean, it's $5 a month, but like it's really not cheap, because if you watch like 4 or 5 different people, like that's a lot of money. That shit adds up. Like, you're not going to spend $20 a month watching 4 people, right? Like, that's dumb. And then the Twitch Prime is good, but you can only give that to one person, so it doesn't encompass like, it really should encompass like 4 or 5 different people, but it only encompasses one. So either way, you're getting fucked. Like, you're seeing ads unless you have ad block on, and in which case it doesn't matter because the ads are embedded into the content itself. So there really isn't a way to like 100% block all of the ads.
yeah, I never understood like, Twitch in that regard. I think they should, instead of like worrying about ads and pushing ads to these people, they should just let the stream run, because then more donations would come in. And if the stream is interrupted, there's no donation for an ad, no donations are coming in. I think they would make much more money just taking a percentage of the donations, maybe raising their percentage of the donations they take. And another thing about Twitch that I don't like is the fact that it seems like they just ban like the best creators they have, they just ban, which doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you banning the creators that are bringing the most people to your platform? Like, they just banned it and Ross. They basically take, if you're like a top notch creator on Twitch, they just ban you for some reason. I don't even understand it.
Yeah, it's this whole weird thing, and like this like Twitch culture, and I don't know how it became accepted, but like even you see a guy, you're talking about people constantly banned. Like look at XQC. Like XQC has been banned on Twitch like 5 or 6 times at this point. Like someone literally sent him a video of like gorillas fucking, and like he didn't know that that was the video. So he's like just watching the video normally, and then like it just randomly pops up in the middle of the video. It was like a clickbait type of video, and he's just like, "What the fuck? Like how was I supposed to know that that was gonna play? Like someone sent me the video. Like how am I responsible or whatever?" And it's just really dumb that they do that. But my main point in bringing this up is that so the Twitch ads are really cannibalistic because they interrupt a live broadcast. So then, and all the ads are randomly occurring. Twitch right now doesn't take a cut of donations, which is fucking really dumb, really dumb. I like the 70-30 revenue share on subscriptions. That's smart. 50-50, they're going to lose a lot of people. Leave it 70-30, 70 to the creator, 30 for Twitch. And then what you do is take a cut of the donations, and honestly, fuck ads. Like you maybe have like a banner or something on the stream, or have something off to the side, but you should not have ads that completely interrupt a live broadcast in like the most important parts of it that randomly occur based upon when you join the stream and when you started watching. Like what if the
Or
second you join a stream, it's like the most action-packed sequence of the stream, and then now you're not going to see it because you have to watch some ad from fucking Unilever about lesbian dance theory and why it should be accepted. It's just fucking retarded.
or right, if you're going to have the ad, basically give them the option to rewind and go back to that period of time that they missed while the ad was running. Like you're basically giving them an ad and you're forcing them to miss what's going on. If you're going to serve the ad, at least pause the video where they left off, or kind of store the video on the database so that they can go back to that period of time after the ad. And yeah, the idea of basically having these banner ads, that's probably what they should do. They should have like these non-video kind of ads, these banner ads. Maybe they should work with creators directly to integrate some kind of ad read, kind of like Spotify does, where they have they have the creators do ad reads. Maybe work with them directly through some sort of platform where they can read ads during their podcast, so that it's kind of seamless and there's no interruption. That might be a good idea. And yeah, they should be taking a cut of the donations. That would seem like the highest revenue source is donations, not the subscriptions and the ads.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. And on that same note, conversely, YouTube ads are great because more often than not, they are skippable and the video pauses while ads play. And that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't think about. Like on YouTube as well, you'll have some ads off to the side right above recommendations. And they're not very obtrusive. And like if I see a YouTube ad and I'm like, oh, great, what is this? And someone's talking, it's like 5 seconds later, okay, great, shut the fuck up. And I just click like skip. And then I won't see any ads. So it's just, like the YouTube content itself, in seeing an ad, it's great because it interrupts the flow of the video, whatever. But you could always rewind after seeing the ad, and the video pauses. It's not like the video's ongoing when the ad's playing. So Twitch really needs to work on that. But as far as what you said, as far as rewinding is concerned, that's a good point. But then at that point, it defeats the purpose of Twitch because Twitch is about watching live video and live video feeds. So if
Well,
you're on a
I'm
delay
not
and you're
saying rewind
watching,
all the way. I'm
right,
saying
but
like when an ad plays, rewind.
even if you're on a delay, the chat isn't going to be synced up to the delay. So the chat, you're going to see the chat, and the chat's going to spoil things that are like 10 or 15 seconds ahead of you because the chat doesn't operate on a delay. Where the chat operates on a delay is like when you go to a VOD, which is video on demand. So you could watch like an already recorded segment or even an entire stream if you wanted to. That's where like that stuff's different. Like that's in a VOD where you can kind of skip around and whatever. But as far as like live video content, you can't just have a fucking ad that just pops up that's like, you know, oh, we need to do our part to spread the theory of lesbian dance. And it's like, okay, motherfucker, like no one gives a fuck. And this should not be here right now because we're watching something that's enjoyable. But yeah, Twitch is very uptight with their weird rules. And like they have so many different like hypocritical takes as well. I would never go on Twitch. I would just be completely honest with you. I would never be on Twitch as a creator, maybe as like another stream of income or like another thing to do on the side, but it would never get my full focus just because of how blatant they are with the rules. It looks like they have a set of rules and they don't apply them fairly to everyone. In the case of Aiden Ross, I think someone I don't know, he said something on the phone with someone, or allegedly said something on the phone that was offensive. It was some type of slur, but other people came out and they said that wasn't even him. It was someone that sounds like him that the guy knew. And maybe that was just to save face, but like Twitch can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was Aiden Ross. So really to make that assertion to just completely ban him is a little fucking dumb, because if you can't prove for a fact that the guy did it, then why are you banning him? You know, it's not like he is on his stream saying this openly and overtly where everyone can see it, in which case they're well within their right to ban him because they are a private company and they can kind of do what they want if someone doesn't abide by their guidelines. But it's just one of those things where it's like, how can you ban someone for, you know, for doing that, but then at the same on the same website you have a girl who's in a bikini 14 hours a day who's like farting into a microphone, and then that's somehow acceptable? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And also, doesn't that affect advertisers as well? Because if you have all these girls or whoever going on, I mean, let's be real, they're basically cam girls. Like, you have some of them going on the platform, and like they're really only on that platform to promote their OnlyFans. So it's just kind of like, you know, they're on there 14 hours a day and they're doing things that are like suggestive, or you know, they're making content that isn't advertiser friendly. Like, that just fucks everyone else. But somehow that's allowed, but then someone saying something that's edgy or potentially offensive to other groups of people is like infinitely worse than sexually suggestive content, or content that's sort of leading the demographic and the audience towards sexually explicit content on another platform. So like, they're literally, not only are they doing things that overtly um, go against Twitch's own terms of service, but they're also driving traffic away from the platform. So like, don't you think that that should be something you should shut down on? Like, I don't understand it whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. They should shut down on that and not worry about the nonsense that they are worrying about over at Twitch. Yeah, Twitch is just like a weird. I don't know. It's just a weird platform. I don't really use it that much. I use like YouTube and Spotify more. But yeah, I just wanted to like again with the ads, they should just work with creators directly like Spotify and set and tell these creators, right, if you don't want to have the ad in your platform. I mean, if you don't want to have these ads pop up during your stream and affect the users, and you're going to have your user base go down, and that's going to lead to less donations, etc. You have a choice, right? You can have those ads in your platform, or you could work with us and you could read an ad, and it could be done seamlessly, throughout the stream, so that everyone stops at the same time, nobody misses anything, etc. So you're basically giving the creator the choice. They'll do it because it will lead to more ad revenue. It will lead to more donations and streams for them, and they won't see any kind of significant drop off. So they should like have some sort of like public outreach to reach these creators.
Absolutely. And on that same topic of live entertainment, and particularly streams about live events, we saw the NFL is doing live streams now. We see the MLB is doing that through their MLB TV network app. And now I'm hearing something about pickleball. What the fuck is that? And I'm hearing something about live events potentially happening for that as well.
Yeah, pickleball, not pickle Rick, pickleball. You know, basically right. It's a mix of badminton. It's take like a tennis racket. I was trying to explain like this. A tennis racket. You know how it's like an oval on the end. It's like basically a tennis racket, but it has this big like square. It's a like a big kind of yellow wiffle ball kind of thing, and then it's a tennis court. So it follows all the rules of tennis, but it uses this bigger ball and it has like a bigger racket. And this is like this sport is growing like 690% this past year, which is nuts because you see all these other sports declining like MLB, NBA, NFL, etc. They're all declining in numbers while pickleball is growing. And the USA Pickleball Association, that they basically came out and they said it's not even like old people playing the sport. It's like growing in the younger generation. And you see like big time names investing into it, like Gary Vee, etc. And I think this could actually be like a big time sport because it's more accessible to people. It's an easier sport to basically learn than tennis. It's kind of like a playoff of tennis, and it's not even that expensive to play. Like if you look at football, you have pads, you have helmets, you have all that kind of shit. That's expensive. That's an expensive sport, and in this day and age in the economy, not a lot of people have this kind of money to give their children to play sports. You could get started with pickleball for like a racket costs like $20 on Amazon or like Dick's Sporting Goods. It's like literally nothing, and a ball is maybe like I don't know $5. So like for under $25, and then it's basically like a park, like anywhere there where there's a tennis court, and they have like tennis courts all over the place in parks. You can just basically play pickleball on the court because it uses the same court as a tennis ball. So all the infrastructure is already there. They don't have to spend any money on infrastructure. And yeah, I think this is going to be like a big time sport. There's a lot of people investing into like leagues and stuff like that. I think this new sport is going to grow on the horizon, and this might be like investing in the NFL in the 30s, like Rooney and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This could be like a big time investment if you can get a hand in one of the teams in like the Premier Pickleball League. But it's kind of hard to determine what league is going to become the Premier Pickleball League for the USA and the world.
Yeah, I was just reading a little bit about this in the time that you spoke about this. It looks like Mark Lasry of the Milwaukee Bucks, I believe he's the co-owner of the team. He's like a big investor with Gary V. That's so interesting. Anything where there's like a new frontier, particularly in the realm of sports, I'm all in favor of. I love learning about stuff like that. It seems like such an interesting thing. I'm definitely going to have to explore that further. But as
Yeah,
far as anything like where you see this sport going, like where do you see this sport going? Like what time of year is this thing kind of played? I would imagine probably not in the snow. It looks like it's mostly outdoors unless they have indoor pickleball arenas. But
well,
like what?
it's played in like the same environments that you would play, like say, like tennis or something in that regard. And it's gaining traction. They have like these big tournaments or whatever like that. Like there's like $100,000 pickleball tournaments where people are entering. So with money comes all incentives, and it's drawing a lot of people into the sport. And there's $100,000 tournament. There's $125,000 tournament in New York City. There's all these like big time tournaments. So you might even see some like tennis players like move over to pickleball. Like say some of the lower tier tennis players that can't win tournaments, etc. They might shift over to pickleball, and I think that's an interesting strategy that they should explore. Trying to get some tennis players over to maybe they'll bring over their fans in the new sport. Maybe they'll bring over some eyeballs. That might be something for them to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Totally agree. Thanks for sharing about pickleball, and thank you for everyone for listening to another episode of the Anonymous Investors Podcast. I am your host, co-host, Megapint, joined as always by God. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Monday or whatever day of the week you're listening to this. We publish on Monday, so we
Be
always
happy. Be
be
positive.
happy,
Okay?
be healthy,
Show love.
and go play pickleball today. Thank
Be
you.
happy. Be positive. Show love. Play pickleball. Don't play with your
Indeed.
pickle.
Indeed.
Don't play with your pickle. Play pickleball.
Don't play with your pickle. Don't play with your balls. Play pickleball. And on that note, we'll see you next time.